Another protest, another one here in New York. Holy Moses. How many times are we going to have one of these protests? So, again, I don't even know what they're about. It's the same thing like the Women's March. What are we marching for exactly this time? Another week, another protest. Another hour, another protest. Another minute, another protest. Every single minute of the day, it's protest, 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 protest. Every single minute. So, I didn't even know what this was about. I had to check the news to see exactly, what are we... I don't even know how people even get the idea. Who comes up with the plan? Is it Soros? It is Soros funding a few of these protests. We all know that. But in the same breath, it's also these moronic SJWs, the social justice warriors, people thinking that they're making a difference. They're making very little of a difference. It's Earth Day, so I guess it's a march for science. Bill Nye, who, hasn't been popular in 20 years, is taking the credit for it. He can't even explain his own stance on global warming, but he's taking credit for it. It was also happening in Washington, D.C. There's more to science than global warming. I hope you people realize this. When it comes to libtards, the only thing that they care about with science is if it, in their eyes makes a Christian look foolish or it pertains to global warming. There's no other science but that. There's no geology or anything of the such. Nobody cares. And also, funny about these libtards, when it comes to biology, which is, a pretty big part of science, they don't want to say that genders, are just limited to two. Now, there's people that say we have like 70 plus genders. Who's coming up with this garbage? Who's coming up with the hot garbage that, if this is what I'm saying, if you believe in science, you wouldn't be putting this garbage out there. So let's explore this protest a little further. So exactly what were we protesting about science here? People like to make like Trump is anti-science. All of a sudden, we're making a big deal about Trump and how he feels about science. We're inferring how he feels about science. We're putting words in the man's mouth. First of all, the man never said that global warming or climate change is a hoax. They put that in his mouth. Basically what he says, we have to be skeptical when it comes to the EPA because all they want to do is tax people. They want to put coal miners out of jobs. Basically what the man wants to do is he wants to defund some of these little programs, in these environmental departments of the government connected to the EPA that are trying to hurt coal miners. So let me ask you a question to all these people that, are against coal miners, pollution, and all this stuff. Coal is still a very reliable fuel source. It has for hundreds of years, basically. It goes back to the locomotives, you name it. Coal is a big-time fuel source. And whether you agree with it or not, you're so concerned about the environment. How about the jobs? Do you realize that there are coal miners that have families, that have children, that puts food on the table? It's not a very pleasant job, but sometimes, of course, in this economy, the employment is limited. So you got to get a job as a coal miner. You're going to tell these coal miners they're not allowed to have a job to be able to have their family and provide for their family? You really want, you rather, give the government more money so they could actually take away from people. Basically what libtards want to do is be anti-populist. They like to make like they're for the people, they're for the greater good, they're for a greater interest, and it's not. It's all pretending to be an intellectual. They don't care that they're putting people out of jobs. They don't care about what these EPA policies do to people and their employment and how it affects the world around them. Because why? Because these people don't have jobs, and all the libtards is basically, it's their parents giving them money. It's, whatever. They're not providing for themselves. You think most of these people actually have jobs? They would be busy. They don't have families, because otherwise you would see them, with their families. They'd be enjoying the weekend, right? Enjoying a Saturday. They wouldn't be out protesting. Such a negative activity, right? Wouldn't they, be going, away on the weekend, right? Wouldn't they be doing something more productive, is what I'm saying, And Trump hasn't defunded anything as of yet. It's the prospect. But it's not just science. This is what killed me about the protest, about just how deranged these protests are. And, usually when you had a protest like back in Vietnam, it was about the war. If you were going to attend the protest, you knew what the protest was going to be about. It was about the Vietnam War. It was pretty obvious, because that's what the protest was about. People would protest the Iraq War. It was about the Iraq War. There was a couple of goofballs in the Iraq, just as there were in Vietnam. Let me get something straight, you still had morons saying that, the U.S. military was killers and shit, just anti-American garbage. You always had people, some fucking morons, infiltrating those protests. And there was people, of course, that were being violent. And, of course, you're always going to have those people ruining the peaceful protesters, ruining their reputation. So the thing is, how do you go from environment and science? And the thing is, it's like, they keep there's more to science than, just these global warming and climate change policies. That's what I'm trying to explain here. But you have people protesting a war in Syria, which hasn't even happened, and it's not going to happen. Basically, it was just a missile strike to warn Assad, which we think he gassed his own people. But, we've moved off that. There's no call to war. Assad hasn't called war on America. He hasn't called war on the United States. It's not happening. It's false. I don't know where people are getting this from. Trust me, if we were going to war, you probably would have heard about it. But people just see missile strike and they equate it with war. And I have to say, if you're one of these morons that think that, you need to get educated. You need, the thing is, what kills me is that people have a damn phone in their hands 24/7 most of the time. And they still have no idea what's going on around them. I guess it's too much of a struggle to close out the Snapchat app, and maybe check out some news and see what's going on. I mean, for God's sakes, be informed. At least, if you're going to listen to CNN, at least be aware of what's going on. I know the false narrative is that we might be going to war, but there are actually people that were acting like we'd already gone to war. And it just blows my mind. And the thing that blows my mind even more is that a lot of these same people were people that supported Hillary Clinton, of all people. And if Hillary Clinton was president right now, we'd probably already be in a war. We'd be in World War III already. Now, if the goofballs surrounding Trump, decide to go to war for the wrong reasons, that's a different story. We have to worry about that as well. Like I said, it's not Trump's fault. He's getting some bad info from some goofballs around him from the establishment. They're trying to infiltrate his cabinet. But I'm pretty sure that, they're not going to succeed. Trump is a smart guy, and if he's a little bit suspicious of what's going on around him, You could tell that he pulled back the reins after the negative response about Syria. He kind of sat back and he thought about it. He heard the response from the conservative base. He saw how all the libtards were cheering him on for, launching an attack in Congress. They were foaming out at the mouth for a war, and it didn't happen. But goofballs protesting actually believed that we were in a war. How could you think that we're in a war when we're not? I mean, I know that there's some fake news out there that's saying that we're close to going to a war, and that might be half right. There are talks of war. That we've got a nut job in North Korea that's threatening an attack. But nothing as of yet has happened. But forget about all that. What I can't stand is the fact that people actually somehow got this whole protest discombobulated. The retardation surprises me. It's about science. It's about a war that hasn't happened. I mean, it's like people have two different themes going on at one protest, and it's a great illustration of just how disorganized the libtards are. They have no idea even what they're saying. It was like the Women's March. What are we protesting? Equal pay for women? Most of the women who I've worked with got paid, a fair wage. They got paid whatever, the hourly rate was. I mean, I don't know what that dispute was about. And then you had them talking about, abortion, the right to abortion. You had many, many, many different ideas floating around. And this is exactly what was going on. I mean, if you're going to protest, at least have a consistent idea so people can take you seriously. I mean, you show up and it's like showing up to a costume party where everybody's supposed to be dressed as animals and you're dressed as a pirate. You're out of place. It's weird. And of course, it was the usual suspects that I saw. The usual people with the weird glasses, the girls with the short hair. The people that look like total outcasts and freakazoids of society. So that was no surprise there. These people are pretty commonplace. They don't have a lot going for them in life. So they're going to turn to all this fucking nonsense, and this is how they're going to dedicate their time. So it's pretty sad. Disjointed ideas, ideologies clashing. They don't even know what they're thinking. The thing is, what's crazy is I'm thinking to myself, science. Ask them a science question. Ask these people the distance of the Earth from the sun, and I'm sure they won't be able to even answer that. Of course I know people are going because their friends are going and they want to be hip to the groove, man, and, go protest and do what everybody else is doing. But it's foolish nonsense. You're making a mockery of yourself, and you're making a fool out of what liberalism used to be. People that just wanted to be free of government. But now libtards are supporting big government. They want the EPA to have all this control over environmental matters, just steamroll right over employers, put people out of a job. This is what they want. They don't care about who loses a job. They don't care who can't provide for their family. It comes a time in life when you gotta really wise up and realize what you're supporting. Anyway, guys, these protests, they're fucking hurting my brain already. There's 1,001 of these things going on every single week. I thought maybe people might lose interest after a while. Trump's only been president since January 20th, the election in November. I don't know. I don't know if these libtards could keep it up for like a year, 2 years, or all the way to the end of his first term. I don't know how much longer they could go on with this shit. It's going, we need a new idea for a protest. They keep on coming up with new ideas, and it's not even anything consistent at all. Can we get a consistent idea? At least a little something. A little bit of an idea, maybe. Just slightly. A little idea of something a little bit consistent. You know, instead we get 30 ideas at one protest. It's like a crazy fucking Mardi Gras of ideas. Anyway, motherfuckers, until next time.